Welcome to Hands Up Now podcast. This is episode 2 with none other than Sephi Hakubi, right from San Antonio, Texas. It's a real tribute to have somebody from the United States, born, raised, and representing hard dance. And that is, of course, all the great genres and subgenres that hard dance alleviates to. And I'm joined here by Sephi. How are you?
I am fantastic. Actually, I'm glad that it's getting much cooler down here in San Antonio, Texas. I was in the triple digits, like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure how that translates to Celsius, but it was pretty hot, miserably hot. But I think we're over that. We got some rain actually yesterday and today. We actually have some rain.
Yeah. And I'm surprised because I've never been to Texas. I've been here for 20 years. I just made 20 years in the United States. It's been interesting, right? And by the way, I'm having a sip of tea here. I'm having here from my Stone Cold mug. What? Check it out. And this is my Stone Cold mug. I brought this mug right when I came from Europe. And I was still a wrestling fan before I even came to the U.S. So that's quite wild to say that.
Which is interesting is, you know what, out of pure coincidence, I'm rocking a Stone Cold goatee. Actually, it was my wife's idea. I was actually growing a heavy beard. If anybody's watched my Twitch streams in the past few weekends,
Give me a hell yeah.
I just let it out.
That's right. And are you in Texas because of Stone Cold? You're a fan of Stone Cold? Or are you...
No, okay. It's gonna be a story. I'll try and sum it up because I know we're not necessarily to the story part yet. So, I'm a Stone Cold fan. I'm actually more of a Triple H fan. Growing up, but as far as how I got to Texas, I was in the military. I joined the military, served 10 years. I finished in Texas, and I got out. Yeah, I got out in Texas, and I settled, bought a house, got married, and I wanted to leave, but somehow it's just so hard to get away. And I'm sure I could explain later on, but it's fine. I've made some friends here, and I made quite a bit of friends. I made a name for myself in probably one of the, I guess I could say the hardest city in the United States, maybe the world, to make a name for yourself as a DJ. And I'm doing okay here.
You know, this is quite embarrassing. Before I set the house on fire and the studio on fire, let me just double check. I don't want to make sure that because I just got my tea, but I want to make sure I didn't leave the oven on. Okay, just the stovetop. Just a second.
Oh, no worries. And so I guess I could go over and fill in time as pretty much how I got to Texas. Yeah, I'm actually from New Jersey. I might tell this story again, but I was originally born in New Jersey, moved to Florida in my teens. Then I joined the Air Force, spent time in Hawaii, then I went back to Florida, and then from Florida I ended up here, and I've been here way too long. But yeah.
This is great. So you've been in Florida. I've been in Florida. I got this hat in Florida. This is the EDX hat. I got it at the Miami Music Conference. This was a blast. I got to meet some really famous DJs. I've never done that before. Funny enough, one in particular that I'm a big fan of, Ed Legrand. He was actually, his favorite place to gig is actually my native country in Bulgaria. So funny enough, he mentioned that out of the blue. And I'm like, whoa, really? Because it is a party place. And so... but anyways, yes. So Florida is great. I go there once a year. I think I spend there. Usually go there on like holidays, and of course they have the Miami Music Conference. Have you heard about that conference in general, or?
Yeah, I've wanted to go to further my knowledge. Although before I go on, and I guess I'll ask my embarrassing question: am I supposed to see you? Because all I see is that backdrop.
You don't? No, not at all. See, in Discord, you can't see this, but on the podcast you can see me. So
okay, I want to make sure because I didn't want it to look like how the heck did I talk to a wall for?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I can send. You know what? For this, I might send you a screenshot just so you feel better. Okay. Okay,
It's all good because I want to see the hat. I want to see it. I just
Oh,
want to
I'll
make
go.
sure
I'll
because
send it to you. Just a second. You keep talking. Go ahead.
I know.
Tell me
Yeah,
about
because I know.
yeah. Tell me about your Florida connection, and then if you've been to like heard of the music conferences there, they do the whole Miami Music Week, huge promotions. If I feel like that happens all the time, but like it could be just a seasonal thing. And of course, I think it's competitive because they got like the hip hop and the rap culture there. So I can't forget that. I mean, it's just standing there. It's always there. But the house music has kind of always been the main genre. And how do you feel about house music? Always been kind of the more over commercialized product of dance music. Once the hard dance that what we listened to kind of started like going down after Karen Craft 400 with Zombie Nation was a huge hit. Don't get me wrong, but after that, there weren't that many follow-ups with that kind of potential. So like the hard dance in the United States kind of shifted. It wasn't so much hard dance driven in the underground clubs. Can you talk to me about your time back 20 years ago, taking us back to memory lane here? And how exactly did you come introduced to this genre of hard dance? Because I'm just there's the internet, of course, and maybe the internet might be a big um, influence.
Yeah, I guess I'll finish up the music conference question. I have never been to it. I've heard a lot about it. I never really had time to go over because I was pretty much working a lot to build up my own label, and this is something. This is a I shouldn't even call it a project at this point. This is a purpose that I want to see through for sure. But it was a lot of self investment up into where it could sustain in some way. But I know I will definitely need to make a trip soon. I know with COVID it made it harder, but I definitely need to make a trip to a pilgrimage, as I call it, because that's one thing I haven't done is actually network with those at that conference, and I want to be able to just genuinely talk to other A&R producers, marketing directors, and kind of get that knowledge. Also, introduce my wife into that business too. My wife is currently working on her bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing. I'm hoping to have her become my full-time CEO of Hakubiverse, my music label, where I can focus on being the creative, and also have her kind of be more integrated into the business, that industry. She's worked in business and other industries, but she spent time with me as far as music business goes. But I wanted to get her to experience not just the music industry at large, but also Florida as well. Now, to answer the Florida question, so back in when I was in middle school and maybe beginning of high school, like I grew up on rock and roll and even like 90s rock music, and I there wasn't all of a sudden the music scene at school was starting to get saturated by pop and hip hop, and I guess I was trying and I didn't really pay attention to it. I just just like everybody that was trying to fit in, like they want to be the cool kid or whatever, and I was trying to figure out what I actually liked, but I felt like I liked music, certain kinds of music, because I had to, not because I really wanted to. And there wasn't really much that I enjoy. I mean, there were some pop bangers back then that were that were amazing, but I felt like, oh, I have to like this because I've been told I need to like it, and that didn't really sit right with me. So, like there was this one phase when I was a freshman in high school that I was like, I spent maybe 3/4 of that year into hip hop and just bumbling around
I'd
about it.
second
And
that. As soon as in 2003, I heard Usher use a lead for that song. Yeah, I'm like,
mm-hmm.
isn't that like Euro dance at this point? Because for the first time, I'm hearing hip hop use synthesizers, and I'm saying, I mean, of course, they use synthesizers for some of the old school '90s stuff, but they were just very minimal. They're like, certain that kind of sounds like a loop type of sample. It wasn't so much like an actual synthesizer, like a virus TI, type of thing. And I totally second
Mm-hmm.
what you just said, because the culture in the United States is just very driven. Whatever is on TV, whatever this
Mm-hmm.
housewife is doing whatever this celebrity is doing, the housewife mimics type of thing, and then they get the the Newsweek of celebrities and this, and they just like whatever is on the celebrities on the menu. That's what the American culture consumes. It's not so much that they have this option, an alternative, and sadly enough, for some people, they just stick to the to this one option. It's just like they don't get out of the menu, and so people like
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, because you got. I was gonna say, if, at least back then for me and for my peers then was more of a culture thing than the. Cause I didn't really notice the music that. I mean, I didn't notice the music or the sounds as far as what was considered pop or hip hop. But although I do notice that in things that are good, which I'll explain where I would notice it. But yeah, it was it was much the culture and I guess what media was trying to portray as the de facto cool culture.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was a lot. I'm gonna paraphrase and say I remember Paul Mooney, a comedian. He mentioned that like I guess hip hop is the most or urban culture, or even I guess he straight up said the black man is the most copied man on the planet, or the urban culture is the most copied culture on the planet, bar none. And there was a lot of urban culture back then. Now, with that being said, I lived in a well, in some of the years in Florida, I lived in a very urban area. I grew up in Deerfield. I spent time in Deerfield Beach. When I moved to Coral Springs, much north, it was more suburban, but still, it was just it permeated, and that's what I got used to. But no, it wasn't me. Like I thought, like I was kind of forced to become something that everyone's telling me not to be, but that's not me. Now, as far as like when I started noticing music, it started something. Started noticing certain thing sounds that I liked. I was watching MTV too, and and then all of a sudden a commercial came up, and it's like a white background with a date, January like 1101 or 11 2001. I don't remember, but it says to tune in, or no, I take that back. It was either the date or the radio station dial 93.1. It was one of those two. It's been a long time ago.
It's always
But I
the
was watching.
90s. 95 point. Here in DC, we have 95.5 with Chris Byrne or something like DJ Chris something. And it's like always the hot shot DJ there representing whatever's the mainstream, quote unquote, and and of course, not to talk down on Chris. I mean, every hard worker is out there, doing something. And DJing is actually a work. It's actually a service. A lot of people think it's easy as teaching your grandma
Mhm.
how to press a couple buttons. No, it's actually, I sweat more from DJing and getting more energy exhaustion from just spending time concentrating, being concentrated to everything. That one mess up. The bigger the venue, the bigger the crowd and stuff, the more you're getting worried, right?
And it's even hard. Like I've been DJing for almost 20 years and I'm still learning. But 93.1, although this station, I didn't know what it was. It was just they didn't even say what it was. It's like tune into this station on this date. So I did it. So I missed when it turned to New Year. So I didn't know what went on the first hour. But the next day I was, I don't know, playing Grand Theft Auto or something. I was playing some video game, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, I need to tune into that station. So I tuned in to 93.1, and it used to be a classical music station, but then all of a sudden, when I turned it on, it was playing "I'll Fly with You," the blah 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 edit by Gigi D'Agostino, and it was one of the most beautiful songs I've heard at the time. And I think it's still very beautiful. And then it kept playing the next song. The next song ended up, I don't remember the next song after that, but the next song I remember listening to was "I See Right Through to You" by DJ Encore, and Yanu, and Angelina. I think it was them. Yeah. No, no, I don't remember if it was Yanu. I think it's Encore and Angelina. And then Rapture by IO. And I was like, whoa, these are some beautiful songs. And then Paul Van Dyke came on, Tiesto came on, Marcus Schultz, and I was just, this is my music. I told her this is my music. And also at the same time, when I would, not at the same time, but either later on, I would go to my uncle's house, and he has back. I think it was called Much Music. It became Fuse, but back then it was Much Music. It was an alternative to MTV. It was like Much Music was pretty much MTV, but with actual music videos. But I remember watching um, around the time. I remember watching the "Feel the Beat" by Darude. This is the first Darude song I ever heard, and I'm like, oh, I love this song, and then found out about Sandstorm later on.
You
Like,
know, I just messaged him like a couple of days ago on Instagram, and he's like, and then I just told him, hey, thanks for coming to my local city club here. Go ahead.
oh, that's awesome, and I'm sure he definitely appreciates it. I know. I got to talk to him. I got to go talk with him backstage. I opened for him in, I want to say, I think in 2016 or 2017, one of those years. And he's just so cool. He's so cool to hang out with. Like
I think he's a
yeah,
very nice guy. What is he from Finland, I think, or Estonia,
yeah.
or something?
I was maybe Finland. Yeah, one of my
Okay.
favorite songs from him was Warrior, and
Okay.
he was telling me that like
Well,
he
that he himself pioneered the culture. Remember, I was in 1999. Was it the Sandstorm thing that came out, and then, or 2000, and we had this brand new nightclub just open strictly because all of a sudden there's this thing called techno music, and it's underground, and it's this and then they get to play that, and they play that song, and at the time I was a break dancer, and I was when I was a kid, and I had my first beer like that young, and then like everybody at school talked about me how I was this very cocky macho guy, and even though I was this young kid, and I had a beer, and then they played Sandstorm, and I breakdanced to Sandstorm amongst other pro breakdancers, and that was just like the real thing. And go ahead, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I don't even know how one can breakdance a Sandstorm. So that's kind of
You
that
can't
sounds
really.
very
I mean,
impressive.
just the thing is that the strobe lights, when the strobe lights hit, and then if you're doing if you're doing the helicopter, that the helicopter is the thing you do with your legs. It keeps going nonstop.
That's yeah.
Okay, but if you do that and you use the strobe lights and they keep hitting you, right? And it gives that
Okay.
effect that all of a sudden you're like spinning which you are spinning, of course, but it's such a cool effect that everybody back at that time thought this was the better than Gangnam Styles, whatever. This was the
Mm.
Gangnam Style, but in a more serious way that is just it's not really a joke. It's actually a culture, and this culture is why we are kind of here, because it was the Rude people like the Rude and you mentioned Tiesto and so forth. These are the people who pioneered. They opened the gates for us, for more artists to come in, and yeah. But and with your story, I think it's very interesting because you mentioned Agostino. You're of course aware of Eiffel 65,
Oh yes,
and
and you know what's interesting? That was before I found out about Party. I think I thought Eiffel 65 was a pop song, but I was in middle school at the time. But they played. I know. Just realized there are some dance. There's dance music that they would play on the radio and on maybe MTV, but also there was a channel called the Box Music Network where you could actually call in and request certain videos to play on TV. And I remember it was Eiffel 65. It was Toy Box. I think Aqua was on it
yep.
too. Uh, I want to say
I'm
there's a
not gonna
couple
lie.
like Euro dance.
The
in there.
last time I drove from Florida back to my stay here, which is like 7 or 8 hours, something like that. Well, I ended up listening to Aqua for like a couple hours. Well, I was stuck in traffic like 5 or 6 times. I was stuck in traffic. This was during the like a year ago, I think, when people were losing their minds over the gas, and they were just like
Mhm.
putting gas in plastic bags and all kinds of nonsense, and just freaking out. Super time in the gas stations were just being so busy to get to, and it's like they're all like getting filled up. So interesting. So one thing is like I want to say is on the first podcast we had somebody from the Netherlands, and he's also a military veteran, and so are you. And this is great. I mean, one thing I would say is out of my record label, I went through just a very quick, shout out. Hey, we're doing this podcast. Who would you open to do it? And the quickest response who are ready to get on point are the military veterans. And we want to thank you for your service. I never served, but you have, and this is very incredible. Tell me, if anything in the military ever helped you, because one thing I noticed that when I was doing training one time in ROTC, for example, I might have told one of my colleagues there that from the cadets that hey, he was older than me, so he was a higher rank. He was training me, in with physical training and stuff. And I told him I listen to this kind of music, and it just helps me with everything. And they made some comments about it, but I think in the end of the day, I think you know. It's really boils down to like what's your cup of tea and what do you like to listen to and um, I think that in America the this kind of genre, the happy hardcore, the hard dance is kind of seen very like from certain crowds is seen very poorly. Just like they don't even recognize, they don't know what to make of it. I think it's kind of unfair because if you think about hip hop, right? It's gotten so much attention in rap music, and they talk about all the worst things in the world, and they even brag about killing people and gangs and all this stuff and sexualizing people and stuff like that. But yet here on the other end, we're just doing music for fun. And I'm not saying we don't sexualize music here, but we don't, for the most part, don't do much of the violent stuff. So one thing I've noticed here in America that's become a cultural thing is become very. Would you say it's become very you know, very shifted towards the mainstream? Always has swings the pendulum. You can never break the mainstream. And how can one break the mainstream? I've seen two of people that I used to know who used to make this kind of music that I make here. They got into the mainstream, and they no longer even associate themselves with our genre here. They don't even. In fact, they make fun of it. What do you have to say about that and things like that? Do you care about people's opinions? When you trying to show somebody your music and they're kind of never heard of this kind of stuff, but they want to stay with it because they want strictly country music or strictly this kind of music. What do you have to say about like the culture here in the U.S.?
Um. Well, okay. I'll give my opinion, and then I'll give I guess an assumption of like why I guess American music culture ended up the way it did. And at that point, I don't even know if I'm actually right. Some
You're
of
right.
it I've
There is
seen
no
from
right or
us.
wrong answer here. This is just
Okay.
a shoot. This is not really. I do these interviews solely because we want to see how exactly can people like us break into the market. There is a market here. And by the way, hardstyle is like the top three genre of EDM apparently all of a sudden. And so now I'm focusing all my attention on hardstyle. Sure, I'm still gonna do happy hardcore. Believe it or not, a hardstyle DJ liked the happy hardcore stuff. So I'm gonna be pushing these two genres. And but yeah, so like as far as the rave scene goes, we'll get to that. Now it's way better than
Yeah.
it ever was before. Well, we can
Yeah,
both agree that. Yeah.
yeah, it's getting there. Actually, so I was gonna say, as far as like the mainstream, like even back then, and I guess because I don't, I guess to kind of set the record a little bit straight on hip hop, because when I was listening to hip hop back like 20 years ago, interesting enough, a lot of the pioneers of hip hop, rap music, and even gangster rap, like in the 90s, most of those were started out independently, and that's why like other rappers that I know that are independent or studied on this a lot, even if they rap about violence or
Yeah.
whatever, like it was kind of their way. I mean, and again, this is just my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for them, but it's, although I could speak to friends that are kind of that do rap and go through the same thing. It's their kind of way of express. They want to get their thoughts and their expressions out. Actually, paint a world that is real or can be real, and pretty, yeah, they want to express their feelings as far as like, hey, this is real stuff, this is things that actually happen. What ends up happening, or what I think ends up happening, is as it becomes popular, they're taking a slice of reality from somewhere, and that may or may not, that might not be what's ideal. It's just, hey, I'm trying to tell a story, and they try to make it into some kind of standard.
Yeah. And
And
and the reason we're using hip hop as a punching bag here is because we have to all come out and really be transparent about this. This is not a joke. Like
Yeah.
hip hop clubs are a target of just where violence and criminal stuff can happen, like shootings and stuff like that. Like I had a colleague who used to own a nightclub in the 90s. What started out to be a success, and by the way, he did own previous nightclubs to that, but because he wanted to give it a shot for hip hop. Okay, some people had ideas to open a hip hop club and stuff like that, and he gave him a chance. And then they had a shooting, and then they put his face on a newspaper in the local news. And then that was it for him. Good luck on starting a club again and stuff like that. So he closed doors, and so I think that, I mean, I'm not saying it's like every nightclub is safe, but one thing I've
Yeah.
noticed that is hip hop clubs have a very like very aggressive type of tone, and I think people should kind of really focus more on the entertainment more as opposed to more of the
Well, I
yeah.
think where that comes from, and again, it's like a lot of it's like I can't say, or I can't, I don't really have the authority to say because I'm not really around that. And
Yeah.
it's who's to say it doesn't happen with even rock music too. I know there's been heavy issues, that stuff that I kind of had to step in and help people out in the rock scene where people were getting sexually assaulted or abused, and even the rave scene too. Like, and we all have to, I think it's a matter of vigilance, but I think what ends up happening and is that once ultimately, I think they say money is the root of all evil, and I think I want to say that I think that's what ends up happening when something starts become when a culture starts becoming a product. That's when all the bad stuff happens. And
Right.
I want to say I think, and again, this is an assumption. I think with hip hop, when the culture started becoming a product, that's when all the sins have come out from all sides. And they try to. And my theory is, what ends up happening is though the gatekeepers and the ones with the resources that wants to milk our culture, like anybody, any from rap to
Yeah.
rock to even EDM or hard dance, they they control the narrative and they try to I guess introduce unhealthy things to the
Yeah.
scene. I
And
know, and
it's very
yeah,
unfortunate. Sorry to cut you off. It's very unfortunate this is politicized. That's the overarching theme here. Humans should not be subject to other people's, witchcraft. In a lens that it's actually doing a certain political agenda. That's where things are really boiling. And like, for example, let me give you a very simple example. I think it was about 15 years ago. um I mentioned to somebody that I have there's this new CD we're promoting here and the release of the this and that, and then they took it all out of context. They're like, oh, this music is their behavior, their mindset, okay, their psychology around this kind of is just, oh, it's associated with drug culture, associated with drugs. Oh, like, yeah, like I'm here doing drugs and stuff like that, not being clean and being unproductive. But it's very unfortunate that that's been the case. Are there people doing that who listen to this? Yeah. Are there people doing that in hip hop? But you see, like, all this stuff is like, it's coming boiling down to a very cultural theme in politics, and that's what I've noticed that's been a driving force. But any rate, one thing I want to now, to a positive note, to change it off, it's 2022. There's so many festivals. There's this, there's that. There's the EDC, there's the BassCon, there's the there's even have EDC has like a Mexico chapter. For you, it's probably just like a drive a drive away from San Antonio. I don't know, but
it's about 6 hours.
six,
Although
yeah,
I have never been to Mexico.
okay.
To be
But you
honest.
can always take a flight or anything like that and just be
Mhm.
like, and the fact that Vegas has a forefront, New York has a forefront. I just went to a DC hardstyle event. BassCon sponsored it. Awesome. I loved Brennan Hart being there. And I think BassCon is an unsung hero here, because whatever they're doing all the kind of things that you and me both are looking for. Is more hard dance, and by the way, speaking of festivals and stuff, when I went on your stream, by the way, please follow Sephi Hakubi on Twitch. He's on Twitch every week. He's doing great things on Twitch. DJing really, really cool music. Some of the music really hit me last time that he was DJing, because It goes back like 10, 15 years, and I haven't heard those tracks in a while. Like for example, Love in Brazil, the Romanian house music, which
Oh,
Romanian house music is that is a totally different ball game. These guys have their own market. You can just call it Romanian music in the end of the day, like just for stereotypical purposes, you know. And so now I'm getting to the Twitch, and so on the Twitch there were some members on there from Sephi's fan base who are from the actual industry, like they're part of people who are setting up these events and stuff like that, and that was actually wow. So tell us about like your experience, working with people here and the kind of raves festivals you're doing with them and maybe clubs. Because you've been DJing for now a while now, and you are you are Sephi, you are the face of San Antonio. When I look you up, I think your website is very, very good. It tells me exactly, about yourself. But in just general, when I do like a very quick search, like you are the face of hard dance in San Antonio. Like if you look up any events that happen there, I see your name there, right?
yeah, that's interesting because I never really looked for myself on there. So to know that I am, I guess like you said, to that I equal San Antonio's rave scene. I guess I gotta take a little bit of pride in that. Well, but I guess maybe it seems that way because so I mentioned early in the stream is that San Antonio is probably one of the hardest places to rave at least for a time. When I got here in 2011, the rave scene was fine. They played trance a lot of places. I first heard hardstyle here, and I've been going to uh, I've been going to trance and hardstyle raves between 2011 and 2012, and then for some reason this we entered the dark ages in San Antonio where the wrong promoters and I don't want to tie it to the last discussion, but I'll make it quick. The wrong promoters got in and start because again money got involved a lot. It started uh, making the wrong shows, getting the wrong uh, kinds of people to be in charge and manipulate the scene in a way. And I was having a hard time kind of getting booked around anywhere because they wanted they wanted somebody that they can milk for a lot of money and not pay the artists. They didn't want to pay their staff, their DJs, their go-go dancers. I mean, or even worse, they didn't want if certain go-go dancers didn't do certain favors that they would get blacklisted from the industry. Like I've heard a lot of terrible things back then, and I was getting really tired of it. But I kept getting told, stop whining, stop complaining. A lot of gaslighting from these figureheads, right?
Yeah.
But it was one of those things. I mean, they're sort of right. It's like I could either whine and complain like hundreds of other DJs, which I mean, I think we all had a right to, or I can do something about it and be their worst nightmare. And it's sad to say that like I was such a sweet kid back then. I like to think I'm kind of a sweet kid now, although I'm not a kid much. I was 26 versus 36, right? I was later in I got out of the Air Force. I had started a new career in cybersecurity at the time and been making started making a lot of money that I was willing to invest. So I was like, let me go ahead and give promoting a shot. Although to kind of disclose, I had no desire to be a promoter. I didn't want to be a promoter. I want to be a musician, but I had no choice but to start my own events and kind of make the pace and set the example. So I threw my own events. Of course, it's very difficult to run your own shows. I kind of ate dirt the first couple of times trying to kind of figure out how things worked.
Right. I tried
Things,
doing that. It was a big failure. I think we had one group of people who showed up, but these people are just so, they're the biggest party goers locally, and so it was kind of funny at
yeah,
the same time, but it was very difficult. You're right.
I think it just happened. That just tends to happen. You need to like really figure out how to break in, find out what venues willing to work with you, find out people that are good that can make a good team, and that's the other thing. It's like it's hard. Like I really appreciate the team that's willing that does the job, that works really well. And but we have a there's a lot of pretenders that sometimes get into the mix, and it gets frustrating to filter them out. Not and part of it also is that I like I'm the type to they'll work with anybody as long as they're cool. But sometimes there's just people that just will drag that just there to think that they're gonna do Molly or Coke or whatever. It's like except that there's I have a zero tolerance for drugs if they're on my team. Like I don't care what you do outside of my parties or whatever, but no one's doing drugs while they're working on my shows. But it started picking up. People started noticing, and I started doing this thing where because every time, oh, where were you, Sephi? You need to go and support shows. You need to be, make a appearance. Which I mean, they're right. So I do go, and the show. Some shows are okay. Some shows are amazing, and then there's shows that aren't that well. And and I could tell like some of the staff and DJs were just miserable there too. And I asked them, it's like, hey, so what are they paying you? They're taking care of it. It's like, oh no, I'm just doing this in hopes that somebody notices me, or I hope I get to open for a major headline. I want to open for Avicii, or I want to open for, this is like back then. And I'm like, wait. And then there's cases where they actually pay to play, and that's just disgusting. So I tell them, it's like, you know what? I'm doing a show on this day. I will pay you no less than $20 if you come play for me, or you come, help me and promote and everything like that. And I say no less. So if we profit, they get more. And at certain times that's not really much for, like, if I'm gonna throw a party, like I always expect to spend $5,000. If I profit, hey, the universe was nice to me. If I don't profit, it's like, hey, I threw an amazing party, regardless. And so like I also learned this from like employers that I've worked for. Like I was lucky, I was blessed in the cyber industry that I worked with amazing employers that take care of their employees, and I've used their principles for my for my contractors, for my staff, for my DJs. And all of a sudden, these people are starting to jump ship because they want to work in a very supportive environment. And all of a sudden, the scumbags are gone. Like, there's, and yeah, Hard Dance Texas, and then now Hakubi Verse. They've been like, yeah, they've made themselves the name. And I'm not trying to necessarily compete with anybody either. I'm not I want the scene overall to be safe and secure, and everybody can have a good time. But there's also other groups too that they throw shows, and some of them are either good friends of mine, or some of them are doing the great things, and I go support them as well. And my principle's always been, it's like, hey, the bottom line is, as long as everyone's having a good time and they're doing things for the right reasons, then they'll be fine, and that everything's all right. And with San Antonio, I think my biggest show I've ever put on, and also the biggest anime rave in San Antonio, maybe Texas, but definitely the biggest anime rave in San Antonio. Uh, like that was all a matter of teamwork and a matter of like just time and effort and desire to put on an anime show. Like 5 years ago, we hit the fourth incarnation. Well, not 5 years ago, because I have to consider COVID as well. Like maybe 8 years ago, nobody would want anything to do with this show, and now and we practically had our biggest sales of my entire label's history. Like me, we made thousands of dollars. I paid everybody pretty good, like really good. Like we had a good production. And what I am especially proud of with that show is two reasons. One, I brought Jimny Cricket to San Antonio for the first time in San Antonio's history, which also I got to gloat on here too. A couple of years before that, I brought Fracas and Darwin for the first time in San Antonio. San Antonio had their first international headliner in all its history, and then second, I noticed that other events are doing one or two things. One, they're actively trying to tear down flyers of us or whatever, because envy. And when I'm like, come on, we're all on the same mission and all on the same team. Or there's events that are outright copying us. because now going to bars and I'm seeing bars like having their own cosplay nights, their own anime nights, and I go to a bar and they're playing Venga Boys or heck, I think I heard Gamma at one point. Although Gamma kind of blends in between, and Little Texas as well. They're kind of like on that scope on that edge where like okay, I can play happy hardcore, but I can. But people also know me as a bass DJ, so I can like if I need to throttle back, I will, or throttle forward, however direction they want to go. But I think yeah, I guess I'm pretty bad kind of being sticking my chest out and being proud, but I will say that yeah, I guess there's no denying that somehow, whatever dumb things I did to make a rave scene here is has absolutely influenced San Antonio's uh like how they look at raves. So
Yeah.
I'm just happy it worked out. Yeah.
Tell us about your music discography. So like you're making music, and one thing I noticed in your website is there is a song that plays in the bottom of the screen, and it's like, is that like a Mexican type of stuff, or no? There's no Mexican influence in it. It felt like it was a little bit it felt a little Spanish sounding to
So
me.
yeah, it's a Latin song called. So I don't know if you remember this song called Lelo Lai. It was like it was a house. I want to say it's a house music song from the early 2000s or mid 2000s,
Okay.
maybe even earlier than that. So actually, how that song was made, and I didn't make the original song. I remixed it. So when I was attending Berklee College of Music, I was doing a remix class, and the final project was to remix Le Lolai. At the same time, I was also taking a mixing and mastering for Logic class, a Logic beginners course just to refresh, and then also not a songwriting, a, a touring class because I was trying to get the secrets of touring, and so I can get booked to places more without getting fast ones pulled on me. But for remixing, I was trying to figure out okay how I'm gonna remix this, and I know like I feel like everybody's gonna make a house song or something like that. Everyone's gonna make or a house or a hip hop song or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna use this time to learn how to make a hardcore remix of this because I love happy hardcore, and I don't know how to make it. And now's the time as any to
Yeah.
try and make it.
Yeah, it
So
was very new version, and but one thing I want to comment what you just said. This is very interesting, by the way. I'm glad we're doing this because very rarely do I ever hear somebody who actually went to like Berkeley or like an actual academia institution school for learning to make music or like perfecting the craft. Um, Most of the folks in our Discord server are individuals who are on their desktops, at home and stuff like that, and they're learning things on their end. Tell us about going to Berkeley. You know, did you meet some is there obviously you have a network. There's the alumni from Berkeley, and there's many phenomenal artists that go through there, right? And tell us about your time at Berkeley.
so to be honest, I went online.
Oh, okay, okay.
And as extroverted as I can be
I keep
sometimes,
forgetting everything is online these days. Like online on
yeah,
this, online on that. You can even take
yeah,
courses now online. Yes, 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 yes.
yeah, and so I went to Berkeley twice. I went to, and both of those are for certification courses. I never actually went through their degree program because I didn't have that much money to go through a degree program. But and even then, I was using like the military GI Bill to fund it. But I already was in the middle of another degree program that I was working on, so I couldn't go to school twice and work full time. It was insane. But when I the first time I went to Berkeley, yeah, it was still online. It was message boards. I don't get to see as many people, so I don't remember. Uh, I don't remember many people there. So yeah, as extroverted as I can be, I like when it comes to the internet. Sometimes like especially when it comes to school, I'm there to post, do my assignment, and then leave. But I think part of that's because I was very busy. I'm still very busy now. So I just
Were,
do what
were you were
I
you
do what
on,
I can.
were you on MySpace back in the day?
I was from yeah 2005 to 2000. When did I stop using MySpace? 2009.
Yep.
Um, but like yeah, as far as Berkeley goes, it's like I just did the minimum I can. But I do remember a couple of instructors that did influence me. One of them's Loudon Stearns. He's he was my EDM instructor, so that's where like he critiqued very thorough on my compositions. And even then, I still felt like after I got those done, I could do much better than what I did. But at the time, like I guess I can rewind a little bit before then. I actually had no desire to produce, to be honest. I just wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be like Carl Cox or Jimmy. Well, I mean, I don't know if Jimmy Cricket produces. I try to find some of her music, but I think she's more famous as a DJ. And there's people that, or I guess probably like DJs that are known as DJs, not necessarily producers that happen to DJ. I didn't want to be that guy, and I want to be a DJ for anime conventions primarily. I want to be the anime convention DJ, but as things of course, as the market got saturated, and of course things got political, like people, now it's like you have to be a producer to be a DJ, and I guess it makes a little bit of sense because to kind of get your name out there, they want something tangible. So and production for me was very very hard back then.
Yeah.
It still kind of is now a little bit. I mean, I know I'm a little bit better at it now, but back then it was just crazy, and there's so many different factors. And I didn't grow up making music. I wasn't I didn't feel like I was privileged to like really do music. Like the only instrument I played when I was growing up was a clarinet. Eventually, I learned piano after that, and then and I'm okay on piano. But as far as I can't tell anybody what chord is what. Now I can, but I didn't know about chords or sound design, nothing. But Loudon Stearns helped me with composition. There's a couple other instructors that helped me with audio. Now, fast forward to my. Actually, I had this instructor both times. I met there's a guy named Eric Hawkins, who his nickname's the Hawk. He's actually pretty prominent on SoundCloud and other social medias. Although I don't remember his social media off the top of my head, but maybe, but like he he was my sound design instructor from what I remember, but he was also my remix instructor
Oh,
and
and by the
very
way,
amazing personality.
when I cough, you can hear me. I super apologize, but the actual audience cannot hear me. So I'll have to now mute both of my channels. Go ahead, keep talking.
Okay, no worries. But yeah, Eric Hawk, like he was a very amazing story. When I first had him, he seemed pretty thorough as well. And when I found out that I was gonna have him again, I was like, oh man, I'm in for the ride of my life. I mean, he wasn't like he wasn't like brutal, but definitely like go through his once you go through his class, like you'll come out amazing. And I think that's the point. That's what I paid for.
Well,
So
let's say something about what you just said. I want to say that a lot of people don't know how amazing actually Sephi Hakubi is. So, Sephi Hakubi launched the first ever Anime Con rave in Hawaii. A lot of people don't know that. That is
wait,
actually pretty cool.
did I?
In 2007. What were you doing in 2007? I mean, you have it on your website here. Oh, the
Oh,
Kawaii
okay.
Con.
So is that the anime social? That one?
Well,
Is
I'm
that what?
looking at Kawaii Con. First ever rave at an anime convention, Kawaii Con 2007. Um,
That's the first rave I've attended. I didn't do that one.
okay. So,
No.
so tell me about that event. Like, was this like an actual, like a party, like a club, like within the convention that kind of?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, so interesting. My first anime convention ever was Kawaii Con 2006,
Okay.
and and when I went to that convention, I lost my mind. I was a big anime fan, and interesting. Like when I was growing up in high school in Florida, I was a big anime fan, and I also like dance music, and I felt like if you, I felt like people that like anime like dance music, and sometimes vice versa. So when I went to KawaiiCon, yeah, it was a lot in 2006. Yeah, I had the time of my life. There was a lot of people that were like me. You know,
You
we
could
shared
al-
a lot of things in
you could
common,
always
and
like,
also
hey,
back.
you could always like ask a DJ there at the convention and be like, hey, would you let me spin a couple of tracks? I got this
So
awesome track you should play.
so back then I didn't even know raves were a thing, anime cons were a thing, or DJs were, and even then that's a big no to do. Absolutely, like I guess for anywhere, like that's a big no. At least during the show, before or after, people ask me to play their song. It's like, well, not maybe not that weekend, but eventually later,
You won't
because
imagine
sometimes.
how many tips I got playing people's music. They would just like put money in my pockets. But
Oh,
of
oh,
course,
oh yeah. Oh yeah, if they slip me a 10 or a 20, yeah, okay, you know, that depends. That
I've had
depends.
somebody
Sometimes I have
slip
to
me like
listen.
20 or 30 bucks. I played like their drunk song and drunk theme song, and they can finally be happy to go home.
Yeah, but no, at anime cons, like, so I left after the cosplay contest. I left early. I left like around 10 o'clock because I wanted to play cards with some friends somewhere else. And then my other friend who was taking photos of the convention, he stayed late, and then he was showing me photos of people dancing, all these lights. And I'm like, wait, raves happen at conventions? And I went to, yeah, and like when I found out that raves happen, it's like, you know what? I think I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I didn't attend. I did play I DJ'd at a LAN party convention later that year at the Neil Blaisdell, and like it's kind of like how I got started. I think that was my first DJ gig ever. It was interesting. No, it wasn't as epic as Kawaii Con, but it was kind of interesting. It was a good way to get my feet wet at least. But 2007 is when I truly attended my first anime rave and at Kawaii Con, and it was amazing. Like because I felt like, you know, it's the Florida. I think I was 20 at the time, and I was, you know, it was the Florida version of myself. Cause I left Florida when I was 18, so I got to enjoy my Florida self, listening to all these like trance and house and Japanese pop and Japanese house, like all mixed together with anime on the screen.
Yeah.
Because how that worked out was it wasn't just a DJ. It was they had anime like videos, music videos that were mixed together, and it flowed very well. It was fun, and that point on, it was like I want, you know, that's what I want to be. I want to mesh the two things together, and I want to be an anime DJ. And I worked really hard at it. What's interesting is the owner, the previous owner of Kawaii Con. I mean, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because he was a much better owner. I mean, he was a tough and fair guy, but I have a lot of respect for this guy. What's interesting is like his name is Stan. Um, like what's interesting with Stan is that uh, back then, like I didn't think he know. I mean, he knows who I was, and I'm making assumptions that I was just some guy or whatever back then. Because there's, you know, we have to think there's thousands of attendees over there. He works with voice actors and, you know, a lot of like people in the industry. So, and here I am just trying to make a name, a 19 to 20-year old weeaboo trying to make a name for himself and whatnot. And now, like, you know, here I am 15, 16 years later, and you know, he saw me on Twitch, and, you know, he follows me on Twitter, and, you know, catching up a little bit, and um, to hear that he's proud of how far I've come, really, like, I value that a lot, and I still value it. I've, you know, again, I've done this for almost 20 years, and I had people just say a lot of things, like, you know, not just at many different conventions too. Like I had some fans and I have some detractors. I mean, I guess who doesn't really, and some of it might sound the truth, even though like it doesn't really matter. Like I make my own truth. Well, I mean, I make I determine my own truth. I won't say I make, because you can't make up truth, but I determine how the truth is gonna turn out. And like now, I'm just like, they can say whatever, and
Yeah.
I can take whatever good I could get, and appreciate it. And I got, because if someone gives me a compliment, I need to appreciate that compliment, because I've made that, at some point I've made that person's day. I mean, there's times where I've saved somebody's life for just DJing, and then there's times where there's people that just don't like me for whatever reason, no reason, whether it be jealousy, or the color of my skin, or the fact that I have a goatee, or what kind of pizza I eat, or whatever dumb reason.
I'm
But
I'm just I'm just
that,
I'm just
yeah,
jealous. I don't have a goatee and cause I have a Stone Cold mug here. A lot of people don't know Stone. I got my Stone Cold mug. Here we go. You'll
yeah.
see it
I'm
on the
sorry.
video.
I
I'll
wouldn't mind giving this to you. Like, some look good in facial hair, but after a while, I just want to rip it off.
I've
Like,
had a lot
my
of jokes
beard.
about my own visual presence in clubs. One time I accidentally hit my favorite DJ with my hat. It was so embarrassing and terrible. I felt like, not only did I book him from overseas to come here from Europe, but I also hit his eyes while he was DJing with my hat, because we were going back and forth. Like, I was the MC, and as an MC, you're just kind of like, your blood is boiling and you're trying to energize the crowd and this and that. I mean, when I had this hat, and it was like very, how caps are, but I hit him in the eyes, and he had to like take like a minute break, like put water in his eyes while he was DJing. I'm like, no, I think I might have ruined it.
Oh my goodness.
It was. It was.
Okay. That
I'll talk about it in one of the episodes. I'll bring him on the podcast. Tell me about Hansa. We talked about DJing. We talked about your event life. We talked about happy hardcore. We talked about a lot of things. But what about Hands Up? Because you're familiar with the genre, and part of this podcast kind of resonate and bring back awareness to Hands Up. They made songs about it. Hands Up isn't dead so long as we're alive. DJ, turn it up. Da 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 da. And and things like that. And what names resonate with you when you hear the name Hands Up, and what songs really like come out to make?
Oh goodness. So I guess say it's, as far as like what names resonate, like Cascada, absolutely, because Cascada, evacuate the dance floor every time we touch. I mean, that's those are songs that were played on the radio, and actually on mainstream radio, and those songs were played on Party as well, Party 93.1. Actually, they were played before mainstream radio got on, because it's like, oh, this sounds good, we can make some money out of this, that kind of thing. But I also heard Gollum, Genzo. So the interesting thing is, when I first got into Hands Up altogether, I want to say around 2008. I didn't know it was called Hands Up. For about a decade, I've been calling it Eurodance, which I guess it can fit in the Eurodance major category.
Yeah.
But I guess how I came across it was because I'm an anime DJ.
Right.
I DJ anime conventions.
So
Sometimes songs.
what did they would they play it, or would they speed it up? Because at the time, I kind of felt like this nightcore thing, which was like around 2006 and 7. People would like speed up songs and like.
Yes, but no, there's certain times where like they don't mess with it. Actually, we used to joke about nightcore back then too.
Yeah,
but and sometimes people will go get up.
And now all of a sudden, nightcore is like part of this whole scene. What if I told you that anime itself is bigger than the Hands Up, culture itself? Because Hands Up is very regional. I mean, as the name, it sticks, and still to this day present in Germany. But
Yeah.
anime itself is like international. So
Yeah, no, anime is everywhere now. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's conventions almost all around the world. But like Hands Up, and the thing is, the funny thing too is, I don't know if other DJs at the time actually knew it was called Hands Up, or knew that it was Hands Up. How I discovered Hands Up was around the time I was dating, then I was engaged, and then I married this other girl. Her name's Rin, and she would watch YouTube, like some of a ritual that she would have sometimes, like while we're hanging out, and she would watch YouTube, like, and watch anime music videos. But mostly anime music videos she would watch are like, they have like Hands Up songs or nightcore songs. But yeah, mostly Hands Up. And and I've been calling it Eurodance for some time, and that I've gotten introduced to more Cascada songs, more stuff from DJ Gollum. I got introduced to, I think it was either called Foggy or Pinball. I mean, they
Yep.
both did the song "Come Into My Dream" or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was a strong one. That one stuck
Yeah,
in my head from 2007, and I had a vacation. That was the best summer vacation I ever took in Europe. I'm never going back to Europe until Europe fixes itself, but that's a different story, different podcast.
yeah,
But that song you just mentioned, I had this compilation, like it was like melodic trance volume something. I forgot what compilation came, but it was
oh yeah.
melodic trance.
Did it
And
happen to have group coverage as well? Because I don't know if
well,
she knew it, but she played a lot. It seemed like she was a big fan
um,
of group coverage because God is a Girl and what was the other one? There was two hits that group coverage put out. God is a Girl and
well, God is a Girl, 7 years. So the first came out with 7 years, but then you have so many other like
Moonlight
NG.
Shadow.
Oh
Moonlight
yeah,
Shadow was the
Moonlight
other one.
Shadow was a big one. Do you like Italia Brothers?
Yes, I don't remember all this. I mean, Stamp on the Ground obviously one, but there's a couple of other
Do
songs.
you like
I just
Radio
don't remember.
Hardcore?
Yeah,
That
we
one's
said Radio
really.
Hardcore.
This is Radio Hardcore.
Yes,
Get
that
ready
one.
to dance.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that and then there was also some other jump style stuff too. Scooter. And you know what? When I listen to Scooter, I feel like I'm getting like a workout. I'm
Yeah.
listening to a workout instructor because I mean the lyrics are pretty much do this, do that, jump 4 times, something like that. But yeah, that's where I was like kind of getting into Hands Up, and then it was hard, and that's also where I heard Searle for the first. Although Searle is happy hardcore, but you would hear Searle in a lot of anime music videos. And eventually, he makes music that is like has some kind of anime theme. Anytime there's an anime topic trending, he would make a song out of it. But
Yeah.
like after a decade, I just didn't know what it was, and it was harder to find. I was like, I was telling people, I want to find more music like this, or I'd be like, I'm in the mood to play some Euro dance. So I would look up like on SoundCloud or on iTunes, and I find like Euro dance artists.
This is
that I
crazy. You just mentioned SoundCloud. I finally got on SoundCloud to use it. Like I had an artist account, but I stopped using it around 2013 or 14 when I stopped like going out and like doing this hands up stuff because it just like for me it didn't work out when I tried to come into the industry at first, but then now it's just like, you know what, it's so much better now. But back then I think it was very popular and it's kind of gotten down, and this whole purpose of this podcast and our music and our Spotify playlist and the artists like you and Jed and I DJ is somebody who you also know, and he's also an armed force military veteran, a part of our group, and he's also on our record label. There's a lot of common, a lot
Yeah.
of familiar faces. You know him. Have you ever met him in person or?
I haven't, but
Oh.
I think he lives. I mean, I haven't met him in person. Maybe soon. I hope either
Yeah.
sometime in the next
Yeah,
year.
he's a
but
very,
he
very
lives.
solid guy. Yeah.
He lives. He lives where like really close to where I used to live.
Oh.
Because I lived in Fort Walton Beach, and from like some of the places he's been telling me, like, so to get to at the time it would be my girlfriend's house. I would have to go up to where he is, cut across, and then go up another long stretch of
Uh-huh.
like road to get to another town. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's pretty that
Well,
area.
that's what
I don't know,
surprised me. If I joined the military, I would have been one of you guys because I would have been that guy who was always a hands up for a happy hardcore fan, but he's in armed forces and now he gets to do this. But I never served. But hey, you guys did, and that's awesome. That like
Yeah.
you guys are like he's such a hard worker. He gets straight to it, and like you as well. And but as far as what can we expect from you in the near future? Because you've definitely been out there. You're the name in San Antonio, Hard Dance. I think there might be some talks about you putting up an event or somebody's doing an event and you're like gonna be DJing. Is that something that we might know or hear from you in the near future?
So I don't have like right now. I just came off of San Antonio. I'm trying to clear my head from it.
Oh.
It was probably one of the biggest events I've put together, and as much as great as it turned out, it took a lot out of me. So like I'm kind of like relaxed. I'm taking some time to enjoy spend time with my family.
Right, that's very important.
My wife and I my wife and I are actually now watching anime together. That's funny. Like me, the king of anime DM, as like people say I am. I don't know. Doesn't hasn't been watching anime for years.
Yeah,
And I mean, and even if I do watch anime, I'm kind of stuck
but
in
you don't
the
have time because I mean,
well.
you
Well,
you,
I'm
you
stuck in the '90s too. Like I watch a lot of.
oh,
I prefer a lot of old school. I love the
I'm
old
not gonna
school
lie, you're
gritty
right.
anime.
I even like if well cartoons back in the day in the 90s were the best, and then like all of a sudden the cartoons kind of like has to be adult cartoons if they kind of like will be
Yeah, and
entertaining.
yeah. So like now, my current wife Amethyst, who I mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier in the stream that she's studying business and whatnot. She's been an amazing teammate. Like I think I want to say that's why we were married. Like she's not because when I was yeah when I was that period of when I was single between my first and second wife, like I just didn't want to get married again, and but my Amethyst was just a very she wasn't she wasn't just a friend because we were friends for a while, but she was also a great partner. Like when I mean partner, I mean we work together, we solve problems together, we fight together, like we go into battle and actually she she'll I'm trying. Let me see how I can explain this because I'll say that yeah, she proposed to me, she but the thing is that she actually asked if like, hey, if we got married, would this work? Because she had
It's
a
always the
kid
women who ask
and
these questions, by the way.
yeah.
It's not that the men ever have. Oh, I wonder what it's like when we marry. Like, no, men
Well,
actually. Go
well,
ahead.
it's more like so she had an 8-year-old at the time, and she wanted to make sure like if we did get married that and I told her at first that I didn't want to be married ever again. But she was an amazing friend. But I told she wanted to check to see hey it's like almost like a vibe check for the future. It's like am I going to be a great dad to her kid? Am I going to take are we actually going to be a family and stuff like that and you know at that point I was like F it, why not? Like, this isn't just some random that I got, that I'm hooking up with for a weekend.
Yeah.
This is my friend for a year or two, and she's been. I can be honest, and I can be my vulnerable self with this person. Whereas other girls that I've been dating, I have to put up this front and all this other. Yeah, I have to kind of be fake, whatever.
Yeah.
And because let's face it, like everybody, everybody has to be that way until like when you're not, and then usually the right one comes around,
Yeah.
and
You see,
well, hopefully the right one comes around because I was being myself with the first one, and yeah, now but with her, like I didn't really. And that's the thing. I didn't really pursue Amethyst. It just happened. Again, and I think that's what makes this marriage the best. We are coming up on 9 years together, and you know, the whole time it was just that we've been partners. We've been best friend, legit best friends to each other, and I think that made it fit. Like, yeah, we are indeed an amazing couple. But as far as the future stuff goes, because sometimes we consult each other with what we're gonna do. I'll say Hakubiverse, our label. Um, we need to try to be more of a label. I want to get back. We've been running more like an event company, and the reason why is I mentioned San Antonio is one of the hardest cities for nightlife. It's gotten better. There's some great people now. Also, we're running the scenes around here too. I have people wanting to work with me, and I hope I can make it to a point where like I don't have to throw shows to put on real raves. I could depend on other promoters that are promoters, like that's their whole job, that can throw real raves as well. And and I've hopefully also let me be involved. But when you're a promoter, you have to worry about everything, and that I feel like doing that takes away from me being a creative. Like I don't have time to make music. I don't have time to like make sure things sound right. And I'm also not a ghost. I don't do ghost production either. Like I don't buy tracks. So I and I'm very and I don't cut corners. I'm one of those guys that like if I'm gonna make a song or a track, I'm gonna give it every ounce of my element as possible.
Right.
The only thing I ask for help on is like mixing and mastering. That I think is
Yeah.
fine. And I'm not gonna say, oh, you're not a real producer if you use like loops. I mean, I do use
Mm.
some loops, but like this is just how I feel I need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I want to try and shift the event production thing. I'll still do a couple. Like I definitely have Homecoming Hard Dance coming this winter. I don't know if it's November, or December, but I'll have Homecoming Hard Dance. I'm looking at highlighting Brandon Legacy, who is a hardcore producer in my label. Definitely have him like head that one. And then, of course, I want to do another San Tokyo next year. I just don't know who the headliner is going to be. Like, because I'm not the only one that decides on that. Even though it's my wife and I running the label, but there's a board that we still answer to. There's decisions that still get made and stuff like that. But the
Interesting.
but as far as I think overall we want to focus more on at least for me music production. I want to get more music put out, and then you having Hakubiverse more on the label distribution side, and I want to say marketing, but I don't want to handle marketing as well. And these are just honest answers. Uh, I rather work with people that have better skills at certain things than I care to have skills for, because I want to focus on music. I want to focus on being a creative. But
Yeah.
if I can get somebody that's great at marketing paid,
Yeah.
or then I rather do that. So I think overall, it's like I want to focus on the Hakubiverse label itself, not necessarily the event company. Hopefully it's more like I want to get invited to events
Yeah.
without me having to kind of influence something.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, I want Sephi at this, and like, okay, cool, I've got music that I want to play.
Uh
So
huh.
that's what I'm getting at.
And as far as your mixing, mastering, productions, yeah, if you're ever looking for hands up, content, just talk to us. We're all about making hands up music as well. So if you're ever looking to, use that kind of EDM genre in your label, just let us know and we can help you with that. We have a professional
Yeah,
in our Discord server. He's very talented and he can go over all this stuff with you and spend time and coaching,
yeah,
teaching, anything.
yeah. Because that's the other thing. I mean, I can make house, I can make trance. Well, yeah, house I can do. Trance. The funny thing with trance is I love the my favorite kind of trance is the fat bass and sexy vocals kind. A friend of mine, DJ Kazar, he calls it double guns trance. It's like think like Marcus Schultz or Elin Bluestone, but the trance that comes out of me ends up being that classic trance, like ATB,
Yeah.
like ATB sound for early 2000s, 2001, which I guess is fine, but it's like
My
I want,
friend just
I
did a
want that
show.
vibrating trance.
My
But
my uh my close friend just did a show with ATB like a couple of months ago.
oh man, yeah. So like,
Yeah.
I imagine if I played a song, I think there was a song I made. There's two songs I made that sound like that. One's called Ocean Drive.
Yep.
I played it's like an homage to Florida,
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm from there. And then the other one's Once Upon a Space, which I loved. I really like making that, but it still has that classic vibe. But I was like, I wish I could figure out how to make the basses like Elin Bluestone. Um, but then also Hands Up. I love Hands Up, and I found out it was called Hands Up when I was like in 2018. After it was like, oh, I want to play all this Eurodance. I was finding all these songs on all these different platforms, and then I noticed compilations called Hands Up, and I'm like, is this what this is called? And then I pretty much got a collection of Hands Up, but I want to make my own, and my wife, she's a songwriter. Well, she's a lyric writer, and she writes a lot of amazing lyrics that sound great for Hands Up. I just don't know how to get the sound to make it sound like Hands Up.
Oh yeah.
So, and
Well,
I know
we
ultimately that's what I want to do. And the other thing I realize is I actually don't know if I had to pick one genre to stick around, because ultimately, like, if people come to see me, they're expecting something, and there's so many. I feel like I have too many genres that I could play that I feel I it's like the reverse of getting pigeonholed. It's more like if people come to see me, it's like what I'm gonna play, and sometimes that works. That ends up becoming a detriment. I play feeling like I want to play this, and the crowd's not into it because they were expecting me to play it. And to be fair, or maybe not fair, but I understand that because I remember watching. I won't say who, but I remember watching some amazing DJs play, and I end up being disappointed because I was expecting something else. And I guess I have to really figure out what do I want to end up playing because I know I can narrow it down to um, I know trance is something I definitely want to keep playing, but hands up or hardcore, like I love those both. I mean, I could get away with mixing hands up and hardcore together, but trance and the other two, maybe trance and hands up together, but
Yeah, trance and
um,
hands up is. I was doing that when I was DJing in '07, '08, '09, and a lot of club songs were very common. Trance club songs were very common to play
yeah,
along with hands up.
yeah, but if people want to come to see me, it's like what are they gonna expect? Actually, I remember Nation of the Night Kids 2001. I headlined that one with Sean Jackson, who is a really good friend of mine, but he's a absolute legendary DJ in South Texas. Actually, I feel like I was lucky to be his friend, but but eventually, we did become close, and we were both headlining Nation together, and that people came to see me, but they expected that I played hardcore, whereas the whole lineup was actually either house or trance. I did sneak in the Lalo Lai song in there in my set, but yeah, like a couple of people like were coming out to us like, "Hey, I thought you were gonna play like hardcore," and I'm like, "Well, I thought people knew this was gonna be a EDM night, so." And well, and when I say EDM, I'm not talking about mainstream EDM. I'm talking about like just anything below 140. Um, so which that's
Yeah.
what I ended up playing for the most part. So I think that's a challenge that I'm still trying to battle is like if I'm going to be a touring DJ or well-known DJ is like and if I have to limit myself to a genre like or should I limit, but I mean, the reality is like hopefully, regardless of what I'm gonna end up playing, hopefully people like it, and hopefully, and in my case, I gotta learn to do my part and figure out okay, what do they want to hear. Although, I guess to finish on this part, I actually had that challenge first thing when I was playing OkashiCon, another. I mean, it's an anime convention, but it's more focused on Japanese pop culture and fashion, and I was walking around. It's kind of a small show, but it's still like it was a very fun show. But because it's not as big as let's say MetroCon or ACon or RealmsCon, um, the like I wasn't sure what type of crowd I would get. So I would walk around on Friday just to get a vibe from people. And it's like, okay, they're gonna like they're not necessarily the rave type, so but they want to party, so it's like I have to make sure that I get every Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese banger that I could put in there and just unload, and it worked out. Though unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I wish the other two um on the lineup that were there, you know like when they when they were themselves and it was much later, like there was not much of a crowd left over, and it's just sad. Honestly, it's sad that that happens because it's like, you know, I love to see more people party to dance music instead of just having the party to a full hour and a half of bangers, you know. So even if it is just obscure bangers from different countries.
Yeah. Well, this has been very awesome, solid podcast with a legendary here, a veteran DJ who's been in anime. He's been in EDM. He's been in hard dance, pushing a lot of these hard dance genres, which there's not now in America. There's actually a lot more hard dance DJs as there were once back in 2000 era. And that's Sephi Hakubi. He's still here with us. And we had a very solid podcast. So I hope everybody tuned in, enjoyed this. I'm gonna put up the stream tonight, Sephi. Any last parting words before we commence off? I'm Solid Shark here. I have to go feast. It's dinner time for me. It's tell us something that we can leave the night off. Where can we find you and things like that?
So I guess first of all, like I can be found on most socials that are out there. It's just at Sephi Hakubi, SEPHIHAKUBI. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I actually communicate more on Twitter. At least when I stream and stuff like that. Like just I think if any news hits, it's found on my Twitter first. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I do have a SoundCloud. But I post more like remixes or any projects that I don't necessarily officially release. Like my bootlegs might end up on there, but I use it more like a place to just dump stuff that I create. I do have a Mixcloud. Mixcloud is where I put all my major mixes of DJ sets that I play. So eventually, I want to say in the next couple of weeks, I'll have my San Tokyo set there. But I've have sets there since 2014 on my Mixcloud. Uh, I'm also on Twitch. I'm on Twitch every Thursday night, 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. I hope I did that. I hope I did that math right. I, I play games. Depend what games. It depends. I usually am a retro streamer, but I play like stuff that looks cool. Like right now, I'm playing Stray because I love cats. And then I might do more Twitch, but I also don't want to get in the way of like being again creative things. I know I've been posting stuff on YouTube. I'm getting my YouTube channel built up. It's youtube.com/Sephi Hakubi. I post my streams after the fact on there, but eventually I want to. I'll probably be doing anime reviews and music reviews in the near future. I think that's pretty much I got. Otherwise, yeah, check me out on Twitter and then Linktree/Sephi Hakubi for all my stuff on there. And
Thank you.
also, I do want to like I guess I'll end with some inspiration. So I've been doing the yeah, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for almost 20. I think I'm at 16 or 17 years, and it is definitely one of the hardest. This is definitely one of the hardest businesses I've ever been in. There are times where I'm like, you know what, life would be so much easier if I never got involved, and it can be because I'm in cyber. I make a lot of money, just by studying hard and working hard, and everybody respects each other and the cyber for the most part. I mean, I never had a bad time in the cybersecurity career field. Like everybody respects each other. There's so much money to be made. I feel I've had it made, and I don't have to worry about anything else. But I love dance music so much. I love music so much. It's so hard to walk away, but sometimes there's just things that happen that make you want to quit, make me want to walk away. But I guess I will say that you know what, it's really up to you how you want to live your life. If you want to, you know, eh, like and just because there's a wall or just because there's some kind of gatekeeper there or just because there's a gate in general doesn't mean that's the only way you can get through. There's a I don't remember the name of the book, but it's by Chris Jericho. It's like Don't Take No for an Answer. That's a really good book. I listened to it on Audible, and it really
The
summarize.
first
It really gives
undisputed
deep.
champion of all time. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he there's a lot of detail on there and pretty much like how to get you motivated to, meet your goals. That's really it's really the body of knowledge about putting doing anything as long if you could put your mind to it. And yeah, nobody thought that I could be this DJ, this guy that plays the Chinese cartoon music or whatever ignorant statement they want to make. And yet here I am, like have put out and organized the biggest anime rave in San Antonio, and all because I just wanted to play anime raves. And I never thought 15, 20 years ago that I would even stand in the same auditorium as people like Paul Van Dyke, Darude, Tiesto, or even like Fracas Darwin, Searle, or I never thought that I'd be in the same area with them, and I've got to. I've been able to shake all of their hands and talk with them on a personal level, and I well, okay, well, except for Tiesto. I mean, but maybe soon. But everybody else, I've never in my wildest dreams I think that I would ever talk with them and shake their hand and have a conversation with them. So, but that's all due because you know what? I told myself that I'm gonna do it whether they like it or not, and that's the thing. Use the haters as motivation. You know, like if people don't like what I do, like no, don't get me wrong, don't hurt anybody, don't harm anybody. You know, if a girl says no, that absolutely means no. You know, if you know what y'all know what I mean. Like I mean, if a girl doesn't want me to kiss, absolutely don't invade her personal space. But if anybody tells me that, hey, I can't be a musician or I can't be this or that, it's like, well, I'm just gonna do it
If you're
more and
married,
harder
don't
just to
kiss
piss
other
you off.
girls.
Yeah. So definitely, if y'all are struggling, keep at it. Don't listen to that negative energy around you. Now, if you want to stop or you want to take a break or it's okay to take a break. It's absolutely okay to take a break. If if you want to stop, you have to. It's okay to do that too, but you have to really ask yourself, am I okay with doing that? There's gonna be a day where I'm like, God, I'm going to be okay with myself retiring. But I'll tell you, it's not anytime soon. So hopefully y'all take that, create the best things out there, and be kind to each other. Like the world sucks enough as it is. I think we just need to be kind to each other.
All right. Well, there you have it. There you have it. You heard it from one and only Sephi Hakubi. If you're ever in the San Antonio area, please hit him up. He's doing some big things there with EDM and hard dance and anime conventions and conferences, and this is where the movement is going. And it's gonna be more united in the next couple of years. It's people like him and myself who are doing these great things in the US and making more events like this happen, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Sephi. I wish you all the best, all the good luck to you, and yeah, it's pretty much you know where to find him, and hope you enjoy this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharky. You have an amazing night.